Yo, friends. We are live, and for those that are coming on, you know the drill. Say hello, press the like, maybe share it, but you can share it maybe as you're experiencing this throughout the live, and when you really feel it, then it'll feel more natural to share with those that you call your friends on your walls, etc. If you're watching this after the fact, you could potentially scroll through maybe a minute or so, and that's when we will begin. If you haven't seen the topics that I'll be covering today, it's quite specific on just the present flow of these energies as of late. I just came back from a metaphysical show in Montreal, which we had quite a ride. There was a lot of energy moving through this weekend, and it manifested a lot in my own experience, so I'm going to cover that. I have a funny story about almost crying after eating a meal this weekend. It's never happened to me before, but I will dive into that. This was a deeply blissful and joyous experience. And just naturally, the increase of the intensity of the energies is going to present a number of things for many of us at the present time. And some of the topics include the nature of the compassionate masculine, coming into a compassionate masculine within yourself, and the nature of how that looks like within the world. And also, this relates a lot to the nature of manifestation, and specifically in synchronistic experiences. This is a common term of individuals looking to experience more synchronicity on their path. Because when we experience synchronicity, we naturally come into a certain clarity of the mirror effect of the universe, if you will. So these are some of the topics, and we're just going to dive into it. I mean, it's going to be quite a profound session, as it usually is. I'm going to recommend that we just kind of get in a comfy space, in a silent space, where we can really listen and receive everything that's going to come on. I'm going to open it up for questions right away, if there's any questions in the present experience that you're having, and just simply sharing how your present flow is unfolding. But first things first is, if you're here, just say hello. And I will be inviting people onto camera like we did last week, which was fun, to say the least. And we will do that again today. So with that, we're going to dive in. Just going to make sure it's shared in a couple of our groups, but all is well with that. Be inviting a couple of people here. Just 1 second. But if you are here, say hello so I know who is here. And yes, we're inviting a few of our peeps at the moment. And we're going to dive in. Just sent you your recording. Nice. So I'm going to start simply with the present field of the energies at this time. We have, as I mentioned, a couple things in regards to just this next, few weeks really heading into 2020. It's kind of like a core of the energy is getting rooted in regards to our own experience and in the collective. So what this means is the nature of how we're walking the path and the decisions we're making and the clarity we're coming into at the present time is navigating a really a foundational approach into what 2020 is going to look like. And so it's no different than any other moment. We are always to act with depth of integrity and compassion and love and openness, and just authenticity with how we're experiencing our life in each moment and our relationships and all of this. And also at the same time, we can see that in certain periods in how the energies flow, there's certain intensities and expedited effects that certain things can have. And so right now, it really is coming into a certain level of, I would say, decisiveness with the journey. Decisiveness and acceptance of what has naturally been cycling in your experience as to what it is that you're really desiring or preferring, or what is really necessary for you to walk the path with a deeper level of surrender into love. And this is always going to be a path of least resistance, a path of naturalness. This past weekend, I spent 2 days, 10 hours each day at our booth in Montreal, the metaphysical show, where we were doing ceremony. I was doing many one-on-ones, a lot of human design in specific, and we were sharing the alchemical trinity remedies. And it was an experience where, I was repeating myself a lot, and what I was repeating myself quite often with was on the topic of a certain decisiveness, but really a certain sense of naturalness, of walking the path in the natural way, walking a path in the path of the least resistance. What is the way in which is feeling most natural to you in each moment, which of course is going to line you up with what is most necessary for you to fulfill your purpose, fulfill your destiny, whatever term we're using here, and also to walk in the principles of the highest high, the nature of integrity and honesty, authenticity and love, compassion, engaged attachment, understanding that we can be engaged in the world but not of it. We can be deeply engaged in our life and the things we're involved in, but yet not be attached to the outcome and the expectations of those outcomes that we are looking for. Expectation naturally comes from a place of lack of confidence, or really just lack of experience, because confidence comes from experience, and experience is what develops our skill sets, our abilities. It brings forward our gifts. We have natural gifts that, like all of us have natural gifts, and you look at a human design chart, you can very clearly see some specific elements with that. And then there are so many other interconnected webs with how those gifts manifest themselves and how they are present in this lifetime. But they have to be dutifully applied. They need to be experienced in real time in the physical. So just because we have a gift doesn't mean we may be confident in that gift. There has to be a certain practicing of that gift and an experience, an ongoing experience. For myself, many, say that I can speak well, let's say. Okay, so I'm a public speaker, I can do a lot of speaking, I can weave concepts very well. But we have to understand, this has been going on for almost 10 years, different forms of speaking and teaching, like almost every day, a lot. So that is not something that just comes. There's something to be said about experience. Wisdom comes from experience. So one thing that was coming to me today about when I observe individuals in spaces of their own confusion, and myself in times that I face myself in confusion, confusion of where the path is going or what's unfolding or why there's challenge or why this or that is occurring. The confusion really is in the confusion itself. We should be confused why we're confused. Naturally, experience and diving into life, deeply experiencing life, making the mistakes, trial and error, involving oneself, engaging oneself within life is what brings experience and wisdom, and that's what destroys confusion. So if there's confusion, it's not necessarily anything to be confused about. It's to simply recognize that it's time for further experiencing. It's time for diving into the things that may be uncomfortable, but are actually the path of least resistance, because the uncomfortable nature is in one's own resistance to them, or in one's own expectations around what it's supposed to look like, or what it's designed to be, or what we think it's meant to be. Expectation is simply coming from one who is not willing to surrender to their ability and their gifts in real time, seeing that in real time, you will be given what it is that you're meant to be given, and you will act in the way that you're meant to act to manifest the experience in which is going to be experienced, the experience in which is going to bring you the lessons that are presently available. Many times, there's a lot of affirming or desiring to experience the highest timeline, let's say, or the highest outcome and the most beautiful representation of one's life. And this is of course valid. We're all to desire this. And so we have to recognize that the way that's going to happen is if we release from that expectation, if we just simply accept that what's happening now in the moment is actually what's of the highest timeline. Every moment is the highest timeline because that's what you're given. So there's nothing to be, there's no other place to be than where you're at. And so if you're in a troubled place, this is the opportunity for each of us to be in a place of authenticity with the troubled nature and ask for support, to be welcoming of support, to be transparent and authentic in the fact that support is, required. And so this is an ongoing process for us all. For myself, it was this weekend, we were doing a 20-hour, 10-hour days of at these booths. I couldn't have done it without the team that we had, Christelle and Jack and Matt, I mean, it was completely, required to have that support. And if that wasn't there, then I wouldn't have done what I was able to do. And likewise, we're all in that situation moment to moment, to be offering ourselves in a place of authenticity of what is occurring. And this is the beauty of authentic sharing. And another point which is important is we're not objectifying what authenticity is. Authenticity isn't a thing we need to do. Authenticity is a natural approach of us learning to recognize our feelings and be willing to translate those feelings into how we're presently acting. Meaning to align what we are experiencing inwardly with what we are moving with outwardly. This doesn't mean projecting. This means still acting in a compassionate way, acting in what's of the betterment for all beings, while still respecting and recognize where one actually is. This is in many ways the dissolution of comparison, because comparison comes from the ideals and expectations that are placed by how we observe others and how we take on the ideals of what we observe as a requirement of what we have to be in this moment, when what we are in this moment is already what's arising. So if it's already arising, then this is what we are to look at. And to be in each moment presently, to be with each moment as it's coming, as it's arising, is to simply recognize and to act in the way in which all of life is presenting you inwardly, and then how that is reflecting to you outwardly. So this naturally navigates us into the topic of how do we live in perpetual synchronicity. It's recognizing that gratitude and appreciation is seeing and appreciating what is apparent, what is happening, what is alive and well, and what is real now. And from that lens, naturally we will move into a synchronistic flow. Now, synchronicity doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. Synchronicity simply means that the outer plane is mirroring the inner perception. And the inner feeling, or the inner state, the inner perception, as it aligns into a higher vibrational state, or a harmonized vibrational state, naturally it is easier to recognize the connection between the inner and the outer. This is why naturally for people who are in a place of deepened separation or despair or guilt, or when we're in those states at any point, we have a difficulty with seeing the interconnectivity with all things. Separation emerges. There's a lack of clarity in seeing that everything is already synchronistic, because of course the question would lie, how would we accept that if we were in a dire state with it? How could we accept that everything we're perceiving outwardly is just a mirror of our inner state? And when we come into a higher state, everything just mirrors that outer state. So as we begin to take responsibility for our experience and see that everything that we are already is what is manifesting outwardly, we see that synchronicity is not necessarily something that's happening to us. It is simply a reflection of what we are creating in real time, and naturally co-creating with other beings. The beauty of where we're always at, like, it doesn't matter how far we go into the depth of the forest, we're always around people. It's just a different degree of how far it is. It may be 100 kilometers you're away from the other people, but you're still in a co-created reality with other people. You're never alone. There's always others that are interconnected within the co-creative web. So it means that we co-create reality. And thus, if we co-create reality, the more we're in a higher vibrational state and in the home vibrational essence among other beings who are also in that place, naturally synchronicity is going to increase. Synchronicity is going to increase in its perception. Meaning synchronicity is always present. Synchronicity is always happening. It's just simply we're not necessarily aware of it. And we wouldn't be willing to be aware of it unless we're feeling safe and well and connected within. And then we're given the gift to then co-create the synchronicities with other beings, which is a very blissful experience. It's the most blissful experience, we could say. Because it's one thing to experience the depth of bliss within oneself. It's a completely other thing to experience that depth of bliss with other beings, and to co-create adventure and spontaneity and just the nature of an unfolding path of service and like just eternity with other beings. That is the nature of the universe. It's why we love these like adventure movies and all these things. It's all having to do with people just experiencing ongoing adventure and unfolding of spontaneity and a flow of experiences that just continue to nourish oneself and continue to open for further creativity. Creativity that's void of expectation. Creativity that doesn't necessarily have a goal in mind, but can a creativity that simply has a movement of pure intent, that simply moves with the flow. So this is where, goals and intention merge. If there's a clarity of intent, a clarity of purity within, then naturally the goals in which one may want to manifest will come to fruition. Right? They will naturally merge together and they will come to fruition. So, everything that I'm speaking of here comes from a place of a deepened love for oneself, a deepened love for oneself and for others, and to see that that's the only real priority that we have. Every other priority that we think is important outside of our basic needs to feel safe, we have to we have to really inquire into them as to how real they really are, and whether or not the depth of love for oneself and for others, to serve others in a deeply loving way, whether or not that is going to take care of all of those other desires. That's the beauty, right? So I spoke of today in my the post I made about this dinner I had last night, where I almost fell into tears and all of this, and it was an accumulation of the whole weekend, which was just, again, ongoing, nonstop, basically 10 hours straight of interacting with people, doing sessions, doing ceremonies. We were doing sound ceremonies right in the expo the whole day. Jack was just laying it out. It was beautiful. And the beauty of that experience was what? It was a recognition that in the depth of one's own flow of creativity and love expression, there is nothing really required. Like I said, I had one meal the whole weekend. It was last night. And so that flow of just pure service is the place where the requirement of other things, the needs from all these things around us, is just simply not there, because there's a surrender to the flow of one's own experience, the flow of one's own willingness to serve, willingness to move into more vulnerability. Because to serve and to jump into experiences, to be vulnerable, to recognize that you're moving into the unknown every time that you further move into experiencing. Because experiencing means you're stepping into something you have not experienced before. That's the nature of experience. If you experienced it before, you can't experience it again. That's why every moment is a new moment. Every moment is spontaneous in that essence. And so as we're willing to see this, we recognize that everything that we are unfolding into is spontaneously coming to us at the same time. This is the nature of the masculine feminine energy. As we move forward with a curiosity, a sense of awe and adventure and openness to see what life has in store for us, to see what is real. Because to see what is real is to drop what we think is real. So this is the beauty of coming into each moment with humility. And from that foundation, naturally, that's what manifests these heightened experiences, where we can bring forward our abilities and our skill sets and what we know and what we've experienced from the past into the new moment. And so we can do that in an ever-flowing, balanced light, when we are recognizing both sides of that coin, where there is a depth of openness to spontaneity. We have to understand that the best moments in our life have been spontaneous. But for us to experience that spontaneity, there's a structure for ourselves to be in a receptive place. We have had to have done some things to set that up. But in the moment in which it occurred, naturally it was spontaneous. So we have to see the paradox here and not rest on either side of that. Anytime we're resting into a place of some side of something, generally we're going to find ourselves in a little bit of, we're just simply going to be the universe will just simply present its opposite. It's the nature of all of existence. We're presented opposites ongoingly to continue to resolve the nature of opposites, seeing that it's not good or bad, it's not this or that, it's not right or wrong, it's not this versus that. We continue to experience opposites so we can come into the center of it. And many of you, who have obviously seen your human design chart, we all have a human design. I was going to say, for those who have a human design, we all have human design. But if you've seen your human design chart, you will see, specifically in your undefined centers, you will see that this is heightened in the process of extremes, of experiencing extremes. So it's different for each of you. So it's important. This is why it's important to understand your design, because you will have more of an understanding as to why your path may be a bit different than somebody else's. All of us having to experience different levels of extremes, but just in different ways. And this is an important element because it is really your place of greatest wisdom. It's your place of the deepest experiences you're going to have in this life. And it's really a product of seeing that the nature of experiencing extremes is to come into the balance of one's own wisdom. right? Again, one's own wisdom comes from experience. So at any point we're finding ourselves in our own confusion, it's simply we're lacking experience. We have to experience more. So it's to be confused with why we're confused, like I mentioned. It is always coming down to a lack of experience, because with experience brings wisdom. So this is the essence of the teaching of engaged detachment, right? Engaged detachment is being involved in life deeply and continuing to deepen oneself into experiences, and which is the unknown, the vulnerable unknown, so that more and more wisdom can be gathered to the point in which there's a masterhood that comes. Like I said, one could say, "Oh, Corey, you're great at speaking." Well, it's like, am I great at speaking, or is there just simply an experienced way of speaking? Like, it's an interesting way of looking at it. Because if I've been speaking for 10 years in similar ways to this, naturally there's going to be a certain masterhood with that. And so with that skill set, with that gift, there is that dissolves expectation naturally. It's not a choice to dissolve expectation. That just happens naturally, just like a leaf falling off a tree, because you know that anytime you're placed in a situation where that is being called from you, that it'll happen. It'll just happen. There's a certain confidence with that. So this is the ongoing product of experiencing and moving creative energy into just opportunities. And so dependent on the human design element, that will determine how those opportunities come about. For me, I have to initiate those opportunities for myself. I have to put myself in those situations. For the majority of you, it's going to be magnetizing those opportunities to you so that you can respond into them. And some of you have to be invited, clear invitation, so that you can move into them, right? And so it's different for each of us, and it's different for each of us in the way in which we decide whether or not it's going to be right, right? So, yeah. So there's a lot of juice. I mean, if you're just coming in, it's obviously recommended to rewatch it later. And if you're enjoying it, now's the time to share. I wouldn't ask you to share unless you're actually resonating with this. But if you are, click the button. What else did I want to get into? I'm just going to take a look at my notes. I mean, those are some of the key pieces. The expectation piece, I feel, is probably the most vital, because that's what creates the most suffering. And so, going back to this weekend, it wasn't just me having this lit, thing in Montreal. I mean, there was a lot of energy moving through the whole weekend for all of us. So the sun was really active in its solar energy, and there's a lot of stuff coming through. But, that whole flow of just continuing to be in that place of service, all day, both days. The story as it's told, going to this dinner in the evening was a very synchronistic energy. And that synchronistic energy naturally brought forth, a place of deep enjoy. Eating the best meal of my life, bringing me into almost, tears running down my eyes, all of that. Again, this just comes from an accumulation of love. It's a place where we can always be in this to a certain degree. And even so, it's like, you wouldn't even want it to be like that all the time, because that's the whole purpose of this life. It's like, it's to experience the appreciation of the natural flows of the ebbs and the highs and the lows, and what is there to teach us a lesson. There's a certain beauty of the neutralization that happens when you come into a place of recognition and knowing with what is true. What is true in this moment is simply that what feels most natural. It's always going to come back to that. And a lot of times when I have found myself in suffering, where I observe people in suffering, it just seems unnatural to be in that level of suffering. It feels like there's so much effort to hold to that suffering. Many times there's so much effort being put into holding to suffering. It's quite remarkable, actually, to observe in my own experience and in the mirror. It's remarkable to see how much effort we may put into actually holding suffering in our experience. So again, when we come back to that place of what feels natural, it is always going to dissolve expectation, because the nature of dissolving expectation, again, comes from the place of true experience and wisdom. So when we are in our own confusion, we're simply out of creative flow, we're out of experiencing. And so coming back to the human design element, the more you're recognizing the nature of your strategy, we have to double down on that. Double down on okay, if you're a generator and you're meant to respond, start really looking at the opportunities that you have around you, because I guarantee you have at least one, And And likewise, if a manifestor or whatever, we all have opportunities to do what we would most like to do. And so the paradox, obviously, is that suffering doesn't mean discomfort. This is like a key piece. The kind of like privileged new age seeker, you could say, in many times, like in many ways, is kind of I've felt like this in many times in my experience, is simply running from discomfort, thinking that it's suffering. But it's to understand that to experience and to gain wisdom is going to be uncomfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's suffering. It actually can be very natural to experience discomfort, especially we have to understand that pretty much all of us, pretty much all of us have lived in a certain level of hell at a certain point in this lifetime. So if that's the case, then there's going to be naturally much discomfort that's going to be faced when we have to move out of the habits that have kept us in the hell of this dimension. And so if that is required to move through a process of healing, then naturally that's going to be uncomfortable at times. But we have to understand that discomfort can very quickly become suffering once we feel like we need to become something better than where we're at now. This is the beautiful paradox of it all. Because of course, if we fall into this place where we because then discomfort can very quickly become no pain, no gain. In a sense that there's a very true statement, but in a sense that we can't be compassionate with ourselves and move at our own pace, right? Again, going back to the culprit of comparison, right? Comparison naturally is going to be the culprit on the path of bringing one into a place of feeling they need to go faster than where they're going, or at a pace in which is just too uncomfortable, because that is the thing. Everything in any imbalance of a dose can cause issue. So the natural way is a certain is a certain thing we all know. It's not like outside of the realm of anything. It's like it reminded me of this weekend. Everyone I saw was awakened. Everyone I saw was in this enlightened truth at the depth of their being. So even if they may not be able to perceive it at the present moment, this is what I'm perceiving. It's like everyone in essence is just unique in their own way. And so when we can see it like that, when we can see life in this way where there's not this better or worse, and this ongoing comparison of each moment to the next moment, or all of the options, is it better this way or that way or this, it's coming into the naturalness of one's own being and actually truly feeling into what feels most natural, most effortless in each unfolding. And again, like, effortless doesn't even mean not uncomfortable. This is, again, like, we have to continue to refine how detailed we're becoming with the process of attaching ourselves to concepts or ideals. Simply seeing that everything really is just mind. Everything is a process of holding to specific beliefs. Because for one person, something can be uncomfortable, and for another, something not. For ourselves, in one moment something can be uncomfortable, in the next moment not. Everything is a product of one's beliefs and the flows of mind. So this is very much the story of, like, going back to this meal last night. I mean, in comparison to a 40-day juice fast and the principles in which govern the breatharian pranic way, or what I have perceived as the fasting path, or things like this, we could say that eating a curry bowl filled with potatoes, rice, chickpeas, bread, and more potatoes is potentially not in alignment with those belief structures, but yet at the same time, that meal again was the most blissful meal I think I would say I have, from what I can remember in the entirety of my experience in this body. And so all of a sudden now, all of the beliefs in that moment are no longer apparent. They're no longer there, because the essence and the primary principle, the source principle of all of existence, dissolves all of these things, because naturally it's just based on consciousness. It's based on where's our perception. If our perception is on the source of being, then naturally it's like you're a walking flame, you're a walking light post that dissolves everything. And so this is how those experiences can occur, but that has to be an authentic experience, right? Like, the nature of the flow of that happening just happened so synchronistically. It was like a destined moment. And many other synchronicities around just the setting and the time and the last time we were there, and like so many things just point to that. So we have to understand that the less we're holding, this comes back to the spontaneity energy. The less we're holding to, again, the ways of the mind, the beliefs of the mind that say certain things need to occur, well, this is what's going to put us into the difficulties, right? This is what's going to put us into the place of deepened suffering. Because, the funniest thing is the other small, it wasn't a meal, it was like snacking that I had was actually really disruptive to my energy in my body, and it was filled with good things. It wasn't the best food combining, but it was much healthier food than what the meal was on Sunday. So, again, there has to be always that flexibility on the path where we apply teachings in each moment, and in the next moment we may not. And the more free we are in that flow and in that perception and in that unfolding of love that's continually void of our own expectations, then we're gifted more depth of that compassion. And that's kind of what I mentioned with this compassionate masculine. Jack and I were, I think he's on now, and we were driving. I was in the car, out of the car the whole weekend. We basically ran, specifically Sunday, we ran into like 3 other male figures that were just like so like surprisingly compassionate, like the energy, their sensitivity, like it was, and they were just random dudes. Like one guy was at the parking meter, another guy at the restaurant. It was just like the most hilarious thing, and it was a very clear symbol in the day. Of course, the mirror of what we're perceiving is the mirror of what we're creating, and so that was a very confirming experience, right? Of the depth of the feminine energy, the compassionate energy that can reside within the masculine. It resides as the foundation to the masculine. And so that place of the depth of compassion within and within one's own heart, which perceives everything with a welcoming energy, right? Perceives all meals, all people, all situations, all opportunities with a welcoming energy, but yet at the same time then moves forward with the decisiveness, right? Moves forward with a certain confidence, moves forward with a certain committed flow of action. This is what creates. So going back to human design, whether you're a generator, a projector, or a manifestor, or whatever, if you're entering into situations correctly, the same energy of that is going to apply and be required to have the depth of gentleness, compassion within, and to move forward with the clarity of one's own actions and the movement of their fixated focus and commitment and decisiveness and engagement. It's like not half-assing stuff. It's not like tiptoeing into things, or like that's what it is. So it's not to put pressure on oneself to have to do something. It's simply recognizing what are the engagements in which do feel right, and then when they do feel right, it's not half-assing the entry. It's committing. It's moving into it, and allowing for the nature of that decisiveness and that commitment, that energy to manifest and to reveal itself in the way that it will. So this is we're pulling both, right? This is the power of the feminine essence, because it provides a certain level of safety within, a certain foundation inwardly, and that's been a deepened lesson within my own experience, as of late. That's for sure. So, yeah, a lot of juice there. We just pulled the 3rd queen. I'm just pulling cards. I'm not looking for them. They're looking for me, maybe. So we're loaded up tonight. A lot of 3s too. 3s have to do with connection, communication. So if there's questions, let's put it out. Shares, let's put it out. If you want to join and speak, connect, and come on video and maybe you have a question, maybe you have something to share with everyone, maybe you want to lay it down. Let's lay it down. You can say so in the comments, but let's roll with it, see where it takes us. We did this last week, and I'll enjoy it. I may have missed some topics, so if I did, then please put that out there. Oh yeah, the one, everything is love. Maybe that's pretty much what we've been getting into, but everything is love. There's nothing outside of, like I said, when I was eating this meal, I literally thought this meal was alive. It was like I was looking at I remember this one moment, I went really close to the bowl, and I was just like just admiring this food, and I looked at some of these chickpeas and rice, and I literally looked at like personality energy. Like I looked at this bowl of rice and chickpeas, and it was alive, and it had a personality, and it had consciousness, and it was there, and it was mirroring back to me what I was giving it. That's the essence of like what I mentioned. I was making love to this bowl. I was giving everything to it. And I asked myself, even in this moment, how can I not do that all the time? How could I possibly not do that all the time? Right? That's the new beginning for myself and for you. So take that as a blessing. You know, it's an ongoing blessing of making love to everything in each moment, and recognizing the love you're bringing to something is because everything is conscious. Everything is conscious. Everything that you engage yourself in is conscious. It will bring back to you what you're bringing it. So this bowl of chickpeas and rice is bringing me back the intensity of the love in which I'm bringing it. You know, thus it's nothing. It's not affecting the body negatively. It's not doing this. Not, you know, it's like I can go eat, like, I don't know, I'm in a snacking mood or unconscious mood. Go eat a bag of some chips or something like that, and have mucus coming out of my nose almost instantly. And yet you can eat an entire bowl, you know, of something you deeply love, and not an ounce of it comes out, when it technically should, you know. So it's a dissolution of all of these kind of beliefs and things. And yet at the same time, you know, I'm saying this, and I also reiterate very clearly, this happens when you're in a deepened place of cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness, so there's a reason for that. It's not like, you know, if you have cleansing to do, recognize you have cleansing to do. You know, and we all have levels of it. It's just determining what that pace is and how that unfolds. So again, it's not to take my story and then turn it into a belief and say, okay, well, we can go eat all this. You know, it's like, I'm just giving you an example, and likely what many of you have experienced as well. Right? So what's popping? If you want to, compassion is the thief of joy. I saw that, or comparison. I was like, ooh, oh, well, wait a minute. We're back. Comparison is the thief of joy. There we go. Hey, Christelle. Who else is here? If you didn't say hello, I see Kaylee there. What up? What up, Kaylee? Woo! Yeah, if you do want to say hello, then you can. I am in the devotion, lover of all of life. It has been my intention for a couple years, releasing all judgments, all as a ritual of love and exchange, slowing down the deep reverence as the lover. I like that. I'm liking that. I'm loving that. Ryan Sage. So, yeah, I mean, we dived into some juicy-ass topics today, so if you're just coming in, it's probably recommended to rewatch all of this. But, you know, again, the topic really continues to come back to that energy of what is, well, you know, Christelle just mentioned it. What is that place of devotion? What does it mean to be devotional? You know, devotional in many ways is to love. In so many ways, devotion is to see, like with a laser-like needle point, the source of God, the source of love within all things. And to recognize that if you're perceiving everything in that way, then you will be cracked open. You will be cracked open. The shell of your toxicity that has been held within you for lifetimes upon lifetimes will be cracked open. And it will be cracked open to reveal the nature of that energy that's already flowing through you. So it's this kind of mirrored energy. So if we're perceiving outwardly, the practice becomes the realization. You understand this, right? It's like the golden rule. The golden rule is the highest teaching. It's also the entry-level technique. Right? The golden rule, treat another as you desire to be treated. It is the highest realization, but it's also the entry-level teaching in Christianity, but that's in every religion and spiritual path in some form. Treat another as you desire to be treated means love yourself, know yourself, realize the self within all, realize love within all, because if you know the self and love within all, then naturally you will become all, you will know all, you will be able to be opened by all and not fear anything because you are everything. So then what is to fear? So if that's the entry-level teaching, it means your initial approach of looking to perceive love and the source of all within everything, that fractalizes like an 8-ball, let's say, or it fractalizes into like the 10 commandments or the core principles: love, integrity, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude, joy, peace, all of it. honesty, vulnerability, authenticity, all of it, that manifests from the source. Those are the primary principles. Primary principles are like the periodic table. They are the governing structure of energy. This is actually represented in the I Ching. The I Ching is like the periodic table of energy. It's the fractaled aspect of God. So as God represents itself in structure, in form, it manifests itself outwardly, and that manifestation is the structure and how we how we perceive. So that's the nature of all spiritual paths. It's fractalized depths of consciousness. It's fractalized structured energy. The yogic path has 8 limbs. We start with how we treat others, how we treat ourselves, how we move our body, how we breathe, how we withdraw our sense, how we concentrate, how we meditate, how we experience samadhi. All paths have various stages like this because these are the natural structure. They're not, I wouldn't say they're natural doesn't mean true. You understand that, because we live on a planet where nature is corrupted, but at least it's close. We can say that. So there are all these paths that have various structures to reality, and these structures of reality determine the paths in which we navigate. So what we're getting at is we're basically getting at the structure of God. We're getting at the anatomy of God. This is the nature of a spiritual path, is traveling through one's own anatomy, oneself being the God self. You are traveling through the anatomy of God. So you're traveling through yourself. It is an inward place, right? So you're moving to the inward space of your own self. So the navigation of the spiritual path is in many ways a structural, scientific, mathematical representation of God, and it's translated in language as a way to communicate with the aspects of the cells, all aspects of one's being. And in the third dimensional form, we take that as teachings that we apply through action, through word, through thought, through energy, interaction, exchange. And so the nature of our actions, determined based on these teachings from spiritual paths and things, are all aspects of our energy body. So when we come back again to the teaching of the golden rule, we go into the golden rule. We teach it. We treat another as we desire to be treated. So we're looking to perceive the source within all beings. So on various levels, that manifests as different things. Sometimes we have to forgive somebody. Sometimes we need to be more grateful with it. Sometimes we need to love or be compassionate or be gentle. The fractal of all the teachings manifests itself in all different ways, infinitely, at different times. But it's all coming back to the same thing: to treat another as you desire to be treated, to see yourself, in the other. Eventually, and as you continue to ascend through the realization, you come to the place where you recognize there actually is no other. It is just yourself. So it's always been that. It has always been this other self that is here. And so, or this true self that is here, the God self in this other, and that is yourself, and that's the mirror that you get back. So as you can see, that you're not actually moving outward anywhere. It is an inward journey. It's an inward path to connect with the essence. And so that essence brings a deepened love for everything, a resolution of all opposites. And so again, it comes back to like the primary essence of what we went into today: experience. If we're facing suffering, we're experiencing a lack of experience, where we are we're unwise because we haven't experienced it. It's not bad, just we haven't experienced it. So it requires further experiencing, and that's the discomfort. Discomfort is just simply unknown. Discomfort is nothing. Discomfort isn't it. There's nothing. Discomfort isn't even anything. Like we have a definition of discomfort, but it's just simply the movement of change. It's like never ending. It's endless. There's nothing it's natural. Let me read these comments. Anatomy. Oh, there we go. Break down the etymology. I like it. The body had a more complete knowledge than all the gurus and spirits I found. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, we have to be mindful with that statement too. I mean, many bodies are highly damaged. So sure. But that's why we have teachers. Like the whole topic of a guru, like the essence of true guruship is God realized in physical form. So at the source, we are all gurus, but it doesn't mean we've all realized the guruship within. So it's important for us to have humility with that too, you know. Like we don't need to we it is never a point where we give up our sovereignty and our energy to a guru thinking they're going to save us, but there also is a requirement of having respect and reverence and humility, and to understand that on the path there is no level of different value. We're all valued equally. It's just that we have a different level of experience and responsibility. So that means that's how we come to contact with teachers and mentors, because we respect the fact that they are holding a certain level of experience and a certain level of responsibility that we may not necessarily be at a certain period in time space. And so that brings a certain power on our path, because then we can endlessly learn and unfold, you know, within all these different friendships and interactions with whatever label we give. It doesn't really matter, but you know, it's an element to the path. Discomfort. What about grief? I mean, any energy that's uncomfortable we have to understand that naturally the majority of this experience is coming emotionally. We're experiencing feeling states within that are uncomfortable. But if we take it as just recognizing it's uncomfortable, so can we actually feel that the discomfort? Can we give ourselves the permission to feel that grief, to feel the intensity of what that is, to allow for that to move through our body, right? Allow to recognize energy has a certain intelligence of its own. So if the energy is present within us, respect it. If we're to come to the recognition that we respect everything, a certain respect and reverence to life, well then if an energy is coming within us, why is it that we think we know more than it? Like our minds, we know more than what it is. We know more than what it wants. If it's here, actually give it a chance to see what it wants to do. Give it an opportunity to like move, to expand, to erupt you, to light you up in flames. Whatever it wants to do, feel it. The majority of the spiritual path is just giving ourselves the space. It's a funny thing that's been coming up actually. I mean, I've been getting more into like scheduling my life a lot more again, like I used to when I was like an intense business dude. But I find it really remarkable, like how much people plan their lives so far in advance with a lot of useless shit, and then they have like there's opportunities to go to like events that are really going to better them, or different things, and like, well, I have so much going on. I'm like, well, what do you mean you have so much going on? Like, what do you really have going on? And it's funny to me. It's like how much stuff people put in their lives when it comes to scheduling and busyness and to-dos, when the question lies like, well, what is that really? Like, what are you really doing with your time with all those things? So it's recognizing we just have to give ourselves more space, more breathing room to allow for the spontaneity and the flow-like essence of our life to unfold, to actually give it the space to live and to breathe and to do its thing. Instead of thinking like you got to go to that specific thing at this time on that, and maybe you do, I don't know, but I just know for myself, like, it just continue to get into a place of recognizing that the more you're in an unfolding and effortless nature of your own flow, you will match up with the things that you're meant to in the time that's right. And that requires planning, because sure, you are meant to create your reality the way you desire it. But it is a call to action a little bit, in the sense of giving ourselves space. I find that the touching on discomfort means progress is being made, and as if we touch the collective thread when tension arises. This is true. We're in a really tension-based time in this period of our collective energy. So it's to remind ourselves of the power of the masculine energy that gives space to feel the discomfort, but yet doesn't get dethroned by it. That's the power of the king. The king energy within us all is the energy that can stub its toe and not get discouraged, right? Like, to allow for things of life. It's kind of like what we manning up, but it's more just like, it's in many ways just becoming an adult. And a lot of times that does require to feel into the energies of childhood that haven't been felt. That's the whole idea of childhood trauma, healing, and all of that. It's to actually become an adult. Which means, okay, if you get a little hurt or this happens, it's uncomfortable, but we don't need to like be dethroned by that. We don't need to let that like completely dismantle our day. It's like, well, we have a focused intention with what we have to serve and what we have to do. And we live in a privileged time where sometimes we can just say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, I just want to sit at home and lie down or whatever. But it just determines the level of responsibility that you feel you're ready for and where you're at. Equally important, not to stay in that suffering. Well, suffering is just simply the resistance to what is. So feeling an experience of grief in the body doesn't mean it's suffering. To experience an uncomfortable emotion doesn't equate to suffering. That's the confusion that many have with the idea of feeling their energy and feeling their emotions. A lot of times they're just thinking about their emotions. They have an emotion in their body and they're literally just there in meditation for 2 hours thinking about it. And then they think the teaching doesn't work. It's like, well, you haven't actually practiced the method. So I have the exact method. I have a 30-minute meditation that I can send to people who want it, or I can do it with you one-on-one. It'll be much faster and more efficient because it's in real time, but the video will do its trick. I don't know many of you have heard me talk about this method many times before. It's the same method I use with anyone, whether it's a broken bone or a deeply held emotion. It's the same thing. It's a process of becoming silent and moving in with a laser-like focus upon the energy that's present in the body, resting there for however long is required to be with it, to watch it, to see it, to move with it, dance with it, let it do its thing, without thinking that it needs to do something or that you're the master of it and it should be doing something else, or it's from this childhood trauma or this. All of that really is irrelevant, right? For true healing. I mean, you can dance with that stuff for as long as you want, right? So maybe that 2 hours of you just thinking about the emotion then brings you here, and then we actually get into it. Or you do 10 hours or 10 years of, psychotherapy, and you talk about it for 10 years, and then finally, you recognize, okay, now I'm ready to let it go. That can be useful. It's all valid. It's just recognizing. My question is what do you want? What are you ready for? So we have to understand that to feel negative emotions in our experience is not to think about them and try and figure them out and do something with them and make sense of them and all that. That can be useful, right? It can be useful. And at the same time, it's going to require one to simply just at some point come into it, feel into it. And that's why doing it with somebody, being in, like we talked about gurus and teachers, there is a usefulness to being in the presence of one who actually has done that work for themselves, because you're just going to assimilate that like osmosis. You're going to surrender into it. This call will do that for you. Just sit on the call. Just be here with everyone and it'll do it. Whatever you're holding, it'll do it. If you're wanting that to happen. Like I said before, suffering requires a lot of effort. The majority of people are actually putting a lot of effort into their suffering. They subconsciously really enjoy that suffering, right? So that's why that's what I feel like I'm doing. I hope to do here is snap you the fuck out of it. Like if you're in suffering, if you're feeling, if anything is dragging on for any period of time, you have to get real with yourself. It's time to get real. It's like what is really going on here? Are we going to continue speaking and going into the same thing over and over, or is there really a true desire to actually move through it? It doesn't mean it's going to be it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. It's just that you accept the fact that you are fucking yourself over by diving into it over and over and doing all that. This is the responsibility that is to be taken. And then from that place, this is how we navigate, a new trajectory, right? Which may take time. It will take time. But it doesn't necessarily, it surely won't take as long of a time as, the ongoing whatever, thinking about it and all that kind of stuff, So, yeah. Going back to Christelle's piece, we have an unconscious belief that love equals relationship and relationship equals people, which is so limited. We have a relationship with all of life, also falling in love at the moment, with our relationship to food or water or the earth as we walk, the air as we breathe, the stranger with a beautiful smile. We slow down and embody the state of appreciation, which reduces judgment. We love all, not just people. It's just icing on the cake. Ooh. I like that. Blessings. Thank you. Hey, friends. Who else is here? Say hello. If any other questions, say what up. If anyone wants to come on live, no one wants to come on live today, it seems. But it's okay. I'm on a roll. Yes, a great slowing down, not a lack of productivity, but a calmer pace for sure. Yeah. Best teaching I ever received was the feeling the full spectrum of emotion. Yep, me too. An invitation to get used to feeling the whole spectrum of emotion on a regular basis. Someone mentioned to me the metaphor of the tropics. It rains 1 minute and beams sunshine in the next. Let's take a lesson from Mother Nature. Just because feeling arisen doesn't mean it needs to stay. Yeah, exactly. You know, the beauty of okay, I had pulled the king earlier, but I didn't show you guys. But I pulled the king earlier as I was speaking about that energy of recognizing you can stub your toe and not be dethroned. This is the energy of again, us becoming mature. You know, seeing that, okay, we can simultaneously have emotions happening in ourselves that may be uncomfortable and still hold space for that within ourselves and the responsibility that we have to show up for others. You know, this is again the whole element of objectifying the topic of vulnerability or authenticity. Objectifying vulnerability and authenticity is coming, it's basically like, I went through a phase where I was like, I would end up like, I would burst out laughing like, you know, every couple of days after I would read some like new age or personal development post from somebody, you know, just going on about some long ass thing about how authentic and vulnerable they're trying to be, like as if it's like something we need to do other than just sharing just what's occurring, just sharing in real time. This is what's happening, this is what it is, like allowing that to be a natural process. And of course, most of us have not been that, so there has to be some kind of navigation. So I laugh with compassion. But at a certain point, there is to be a certain kingship that emerges, where just because we're feeling some energy or emotion doesn't mean that has to be the whole topic of the situation. It's to recognize that and bring compassion with that as we simultaneously hold space and hold responsibility for what is unfolding in our experience, and to live that in real time, you know, because we have to understand that there are certain requirements to what we have to and who we are meant to show up as in each moment. And if we're being derailed all the time by emotion and the necessity to then have to share that or act on that or whatever, I mean, this has a lot to do with being an emotional authority. 51% of you likely are emotional authority from human design. So this is simply meaning we are not to be acting within the peaks or lows of emotion. We're meant to allow for them to play themselves out and come into clarity, come into neutrality. And as you really do your emotional work, that will be the majority of the time, right? Your peaks and valleys will get much less, I could say, you know. I have a hard time finding my direction out of the grief and into the next steps. Also not giving myself enough credit for what I have done. You mentioned a tribe topic. I'm finding my tribe has become the healing tribe. However, sometimes I wonder if that's staying in the grief because my tribe was created out of my healing. Well, the beauty of the path of tribe is understanding that it's all vibrational. We call this the family frequency. So the family frequency is simply the mirror of your own energy. Understand that those who you're around are continuously going to reflect the energy of what you're holding. And so as we move through various phases, that tribe may change. And as we go through different levels of our ascension and our awakening, that tribe will change. And so this is the ongoing place of engaged attachment, where we're engaged with each moment, each relationship, and we're being grateful for everything that comes to us and the people that are in our moment in each time in our life. And then when they're not there anymore, when they naturally are meant to flow, you're both meant to flow away from each other, then there's an appreciation and a detachment from that. And that is the ongoing opportunity we have within relationship as we let go of fantasies of what relationship and partnership and all that is meant to be and come into the reality of what it is and what's actually presently occurring. So as we have perception of who is supportive and then inevitably at maybe some point not necessarily supportive or just simply not matching, we see like a leaf off a tree, just it falling away. In my personal design as a 6'3", that's the final profile in the 12 profile sequence. It's the profile of the role model martyr, the martyr being the experience of never-ending change and chaos and trial and error. So on the surface, one may see myself as a role model, on the other side, completely chaotic. And this is because that energy is playing itself ongoingly. And in relationship, this is constantly unfolded of relationships engaged with and detached, create bonds created and then detached constantly. So my journey has brought me through so many different levels and stages of relationship, and each of you will naturally go through this in your own way, and it will happen at different paces and at different times. But as Christelle said earlier, as we recognize the power and potency of our own love within, then we continue to lose the attachment to the necessity of any specific relationship, but yet there's a depth of appreciation within our relationship. And this is how true tribe is created, because the essence of tribe is a natural process. It's a process where you come into an organic unfolding of connecting with people that are aligned with who you are, where you're at, and the path or the mission that all of you and all of us have. And that, this gets into a much more complex topic, because we have to understand the structure of the anatomy of God, meaning the structure of the soul network or the soul web. So you have your blood family, you have your non-blood family, your frequency-based family that connects with many topics of twin flames and soulmates and all these different things. But really we're getting into a web, a network, a structured like network of souls that connect on various levels, moving into your higher self, your oversoul, your avatar, your rishi identity. These are all levels of dimensional fields that create a network of souls. So you will find in your experience cyclical webs of beings and people that come in and out of your life that represent similar archetypes to others in your past, that represent further opportunities for lessons, further opportunities, not just opportunities, but connections that you are destined and designed to have, because you've likely had them many times before, if you believe this is not your only lifetime, for one. And secondly, recognizing that everything in existence is archetypal. So in my experience, I've had many people come in and out of my life that represent the same archetypes, and they just cycle through in different ways. And a lot of times, and many times, they look the same. You'll have people in your life that cycle in and out, completely new people, but they will look almost like identical or very close to the person that represented that energy before. And this has to do with the astrological makeups, the design, but a lot of it has to do with the nature and the network, the anatomy of tribe. Because there is an anatomy to tribe, and what I mentioned of like the soul family or family frequency, different terms. But there is a network and web to the nature of what that looks like and the nature of what that's represented as. So it's just to remind ourselves that there is a complex discussion that's happening there. So we have to be in trust, we not get lost in the confusion. Sure, we all are going to attract beings and people that naturally reflect what we're also going through. So we accept the gratitude with that and the responsibility with that it's our own path. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with ourselves. And so as we do that work, then we also have our ability to serve and support them for as long as we can. And then at a certain point, if that's no longer useful, then there may be a distancing, and there may be a coming back at a certain point, or maybe there's an opportunity for all to grow together. That's what's really all happening anyways. All beings who have consciously chosen the light, naturally there is a choice to choose the darkness, and you will dissolve into space dust at some point, but you will come back to source. But for all of you here, I can assure you that there's a choosing of light. And so in that sense, we're all on the same path. We just may not be always connected. It's just we're all on the same path. And so it's just different timings that will occur. But at the present time, where we're at now, the essence of tribe is going to be stronger than it ever has. And it will continue to require a level of communication and connection. I pulled threes before, and that's what these threes represent. So that element of energy is an important one of us understanding that we're in a very auspicious time. We're in a beautiful time where those connections are going to continue to heighten, and we're going to continue to have awe-inspiring and wondrous experiences within relationship and intimate unfoldings, where we can continue to just have such creative flows and spontaneous days and adventures. And this is it. It's how I've looked to design my own life in this past few years, and it continues to heighten, especially this past 6 months. It's never ending. There's no limit. So even for myself, I ask myself the question, okay, how does that further deepen? How do I continue to open my heart and let go of fears, let go of anything that is limiting that for any period of time? you know? So I hope that helps. Let's keep going. What else is up? Just rolling with this, friends. I'm gonna do a quick plug. I made a mention that, well, firstly, this week we're gonna start a new meditation on Wednesday night again, like I used to. We're gonna go through some talk. It's gonna be kind of mixed in with the Tai Chi movement, meditation, energy cultivation. We'll do some seated practice, and then we'll do some chanting and movement with the voice. That'll be a Wednesday night at 7:30 at Peace Room. So be there, because that has always been Wednesday night. I've been teaching Wednesday night meditations since 2012. And they've come and gone, and they're coming again, and they'll go at some point, at least me. So we're going to set them up so other teachers can come. But I'm an in and out type of person, but that is the new beginning in the material nature for us. So Wednesday night, 7:30 Peace Room, that will be happening this week. Also, we have open mic, a lot of sharing of creative gifts. That'll be 7:30, I think 7:30, maybe actually a bit later. We likely are going to be doing a sound workshop actually with Jack and Arif. Sound healing, getting in the creative flow, how to activate things. That'll be, I may even jump in on that actually and teach a bit of that. That will be on Friday at 7:30 and before the open mic. So we'll confirm that. And a connection night on Saturday night. So 3 good events. Connection night was like the connecting, authentic, relating, touch, platonic touch, fun touch, I don't know, just all of it. Connecting with people in a really beautiful way. That'll be on Saturday night. But Saturday in the day is Urban Retreat. I don't know if anyone has signed up for that in this group at Peace Room, but it's a full day. We'll be doing the sound ceremony there. Just a full day of just like real juicy yumminess from the group at the Peace Room. So that's one of 3 retreats that I'll be teaching actually in the next 3 months. The next one will be actually the weekend after that at Gaia Wellness. I'll be collaborating with Jasmine Moore, who's a healing facilitator in Ottawa, and Amber Smith, a sound healer, and Jack will be there with us too doing sound healing. So that'll be happening at Gaia Wellness. But then the retreat that I'm organizing with the Awaken Flow and the team, which is still getting finalized, will be in January, early in January. So this is what's unfolding, at least for the immediate time. Events are happening every week, as you know, but I'm just plugging that. Plug. And if you haven't done a human design reading, like, just do it. Especially now before 2020. Do it, it's urgent. Absolutely, thank you, that was awesome. You're welcome, helpful, great, thoughtful talk, great. All right, what else? Consider all night. Harmony. We're so harmonized right now. Can you feel it? Okay. What else? Questions? There may be some other things that come out through me. But again, and if you do want to be joining into these retreats, any of them, just send me a message like ASAP. Because I don't even know if the I think there's urban retreat this weekend. I know that's gonna be really beautiful. We'll be doing the sound ceremony with that, and then in the evening some things. But Wednesday night. Oh wow, we just pulled both Fool cards. That's funny. The Fool has to do with like a very auspicious and kind of like middle ground of paradox. You know, it's really just the openness to like kind of like luck, just good fortune and an openness to new beginnings and endings. It's endings and beginning. Like the Fool has so much with that. It's much of what we talked about. It's much about this energy of being open to what's coming, but yet still decisive. So like open to the spontaneity, but yet still decisive in the energy. And it's when you're open to the spontaneity that the decisiveness can actually emerge. That's what we have to remember. Because without that feminine foundation, we're nothing. You know? We ain't shit. What else is popping here, friends? Just gonna sit, be silent. If anyone wants to come on video, still welcomed. And if you're coming in late, just rewatch this one. I mean, rewatch the past like 4 weeks, but specifically today. And share this. 8 people are watching. I'd like to see 8 shares. Or more. You can also sit in some silence. I've been speaking a lot, but that's kind of what I feel like I'm meant to do right now. Camille, I didn't wave at you. Now I'm waving at you. Are you still with us? Are you with us? Veronique, hello. Can you talk about generators should function in these times? They should continue to, by their authority, respond to the things in which they feel clear about. If you're a sacral authority, you'll feel it in your gut, yes or no. If you're emotional authority, you'll have to wait it out. Wait it out longer and longer, longer and longer. Keep waiting until you find neutrality in the body. If you're splenic, not much choice in the matter. It's just going to happen for you anyways. If you're more of a mental or a no authority, it's going to have a lot to do with your environment. Who you're around, who you're consulting with different people, seeing what they feel. But a lot of you are going to be emotional or sacral. So, I mean, if that's the case, then, freaking roll it. just roll it. Like roll it as a sacral. Wait it out as an emotional being. The things you're clear with, you are clear with something. So just understand you're always clear with something. So if you're clear with something, then respond. Could dive in. Allow yourself to engage. And you will continue to magnetize the things that you need. That's how the mechanics work, right? If you're in the proper vibrational state in your fulfillment as a generator, you will magnetize the situations that you need to you, period. And you already are. It's like anyone who comes and says, well, I don't know, I don't have any opportunities right now. It's like, what do you mean? You have shit all around you. Like life is all around you all the time. So if we just continue to just go with what feels neutral and natural and a yes, or, whatever your authority is, that would determine a lot of it, to keep going on that. Let it be magnetized. That's the purpose of your energy field, is to magnetize those opportunities to you. The event this Friday you should do once every Friday. That was the yin yoga and the ecstatic dance, right? Like the one we just had. I'm feeling that too. Right now we're going to be doing it bi-weekly. That's what it looks like. But like, because we're making room for some other things, but I mean, we'll see. I really like the flow. Christelle did amazing. Jack did great. I felt good, and it was a beautiful flow. So yeah, we're looking to continue doing that non-stop. Just want to say hi, Much Planet. Can you talk more about soul stuff? Okay, I'll let that sink. This was exactly what I need to hear tonight. Thank you. You're welcome. Hey, Roxanne's here again. I can see when you guys leave and come back, just so you know. But okay, you want it this Friday. Okay, well, we have the open mic this Friday, but we will look to continue some things. Maybe we'll I don't know. We'll see what we'll do. We'll see what will unfold. Maybe we'll do it on Saturday instead. We're kind of continuing to flow with the natural synchronicity of the community, so it's great for you to inform about this. Thank you. Talk about soul stuff. I mean, all of it is soul stuff. All of it's soul stuff. We just understand, like, I mean, the core of what we went into before was there's an anatomy to God, meaning that what you are as a being of angelic light, you are an angelic human of potentially 48 strand DNA in certain dimensional fields, certain universes, but at least at this time, we have access to 12 strand. We don't have access to 12 strand, but there's a potential for that to occur, which basically means higher abilities, an activation of a more expanded energy body and an awareness of the higher energy body, and a recognition that we are the anatomy of God incarnate. That's in essence what we're speaking of. So that's a very complex discussion. I'm not really even the best person to talk about it. I've just studied it a lot of it relating with Kelonic science, and recognizing that everything within the physical domain is going to be determined based on this anatomy and the archetype. Like when we speak of the I Ching in the human design system, we're speaking of the archetypal periodic table of energy. So every interaction that we experience in every moment that occurs can be represented in the algorithm of the I Ching in some sense. The I Ching is manipulated in some degrees, but the majority of things on the planet is anyways. So that's okay. So we have to work with it. And that's why we can dissolve perfectionism, right? Because even the most like perfected systems that we think of on the planet are actually manipulated and have been distorted from many years of manipulation on this planet, and things like that. So this is important, right? This is like we have to take it with a grain of salt, you know. And Dave, I'll get into that in a second. And so when we speak of the nature of our anatomy and the nature of our true the God anatomy, the God structure, we are understanding that the entire universe is within us, right? The entire universe is within us. So there's nothing actually outside of us. Everything that's perceived as outside of us is just an illusionary hologram. It's like virtual reality. And so we program the virtual reality determined based on how the movement of energy is flowing through our structure, our universe. And this happens through so many levels of awareness, of healing, of understanding, of transmutation, and basically recognizing that any difficulty we're facing or perceiving in the outer experience is naturally a signpost to something within our anatomy. So that's the beauty of what human design can present us, because human design allows for a scientific structural representation of who we are in a unique way, and how our unique energy body interacts with life as a whole. Now, at the same time, what's important is we have to be compassionate with ourselves. David. We have to be compassionate with ourselves because with the feminine principle, in recognizing that just because we have this masculine system of human design, let's say, which is a more structural scientific system, it holds both energies, but it really does hold that logical element. It doesn't necessarily always account for other things that are going on in our energy field and other things that are represented based on past lives we've had or different ways in which energies have moved. So we have to always take every system with a grain of salt and not get black or white with it, especially because the majority of us, let's say, are going to have an open head center and an open ajna center, or at least one of the two, which really means that there can be a lot of kind of taking in the topics and themes of what other people are saying and then creating them as absolute truths, because we take them in the undefined centers and then amplifying them back as if they're what God said, kind of thing. So that's another topic, and that's determined on each person, right? So I'm not going to generalize. So there's a question from Dave. What's the main difference between manifesting generator? Okay, not clear on the difference. And how can I deeper understand my human design chart? Okay, so so generator, manifesting generator. The manifesting generator is like a mutation being an evolution within consciousness to basically take in a certain way the energies of what the manifestor has done and bring it into what the present world is, which means like the present world very much is in that kind of tribal-like energy of leadership, tribal-like circle-like energy of organizations and the way we want to move in the world. The manifestor in the old times represented the king. He was the ruler, the pharaoh, or the woman, the queen, whatever. It was very ruler-like, where manifestor just made things happen and everything got out of the way, and just that's how it's rolling. And so the manifestor, that's not really the way the world works anymore. And I've learned that the hard way. And so what it means really is that the manifestor in the way of leadership is not necessarily as attuned to the way in which the world is moving. So the manifesting generator has more of that ability to both be immersed in the generator essence, because it is a generator and it has to be responding first, responding to opportunities and situations that come that then they can engage in. So the manifestor is still useful because a lot of times those initiations are going to come from pure manifestors. However, the manifestor is not the one to necessarily carry that through. The generators, manifesting generators, are the ones that are going to carry that through and actually make it happen, bring it in the world. The manifesting generator has a little bit of a difference in the sense that they have creativity within containers that they've responded to. So when they respond within a specific container, they then have more creative energy to then move the energy and kind of navigate it in a certain way. So that's really powerful. But at the same time, most manifesting generators are not actually real manifesting generators because they don't have a specific channel, and that specific channel is the 3420. The 3420 channel is what makes someone like a true manifesting generator, which means that you once you respond, you have a certain power in your charisma, in leadership, and charisma and energy and creativity. And that's a very powerful channel. I know a couple of people with that, and it can be devastating if it's not in response to something. It can be very overpowering and domineering and just kind of like too much, similar to like an uninvited projector, and they're everywhere. So that has to occur. So you'd have to look in your chart and see that. Otherwise, just continue to stay in focus of the responding like nature. That's always going to be your best bet, as whatever generator you are, because reminding ourselves that even if you have the 3420, that's going to manifest itself anyways. So just keep focusing on the aspect of that clear. So authority, what's your authority? Understand that, and then navigate that within the response as a generator, right? So then answering your second question, firstly, I mean, everyone can navigate their own chart through a lot of free brushes online. You can basically research the majority of your chart online, but there's something to be said about having a good reading from somebody like myself or anyone else who studied it. I've had readings from both people who studied it officially and got all the professional courses done, and people who have just done the self-study. I mean, for myself, I've been doing readings and intuitive energy healing for a decent time now, and so human design just gave me a structure to explain a lot of times what I'm already perceiving about somebody. So that's where it's been so effortless for me to learn. Other people need like a lot more structure with it, but it's made so much sense for me, and that's why the readings go so well, because it just makes so much sense, especially for people I've known for a while. So yeah, I recommend it for everyone. But how do I find that? What do you need to find? Oh, 3420. So that would be from your sacral. You would have to see, you basically see if the 34 in the sacral is connected to the 20 in the throat. I don't, like, just energetically, I don't actually feel like that you have that, but there's other ones that I feel like you have. So it'd be interesting to see that, see your chart. And then, yeah, you can always dive in. But yeah, authority and strategy are the core. Everyone has to continue to come back to that. If you're really, like, for me, like, I've gone through many flows of studying my own chart, obviously. But I also recognize that if I just keep coming back to my emotional authority and my strategy to initiate and to inform, I'm constantly humbled over and over when I'm not informing all the time. And I'm humbled all the time when I'm not, coming into clarity of my emotional authority. And it continues to refine in such detail. It continues to get deeper and deeper, clearer and clearer in such detail. And then the rest of your chart just naturally like blooms. It naturally reveals itself. So, you mentioned you have a completely open head center. This has a lot to do with taking in the questions of other people, and taking the responsibility of feeling you need to answer those questions as if they're your own, and feeling really overwhelmed with so many questions. Like so many questions about things that may not even really matter, especially may not even matter to you. All the stuff of other people and perspectives, and just, again, like the pressure of that creates a lot of overwhelming energy. Most of us have undefined heads, 71% of us, but not all of us have completely open. So if it's completely open, this is why, like, we have to understand too, the doorway out of overwhelm is inspiration. And any open center you have, or undefined center, is the gateway to money. Like, the way you're going to make the most money in your life can very well be the place in which is definitely open, or at least undefined. So undefined and open energy in the head gives an opportunity to experience a lot of overwhelm through so many questions and trying to find all these answers to shit. And then experiencing, finding the balance with that through inspiring oneself to go beyond those questions, to go beyond that, to really, experience life in an experiential way that's beyond just the mental fabric of analysis. And in that inspiration, then you have that inspiration to give. So I have an open head, and that's why inspiration has been, a great path career-wise for me. Because inspiration releases the pressures of overwhelm from other people. So any undefined or open center is your wisdom center. It's the place you're going to have the most wisdom over time as you explore it and you face the challenges of it. I also have a completely open ajna. So what that means is that's all about deep concepts. So you've all been here for like 2 hours just listening to me talk about concepts. So there you go, right? So it depends. There's a lot of different energies with open centers, undefined centers, but it's a great opportunity. So it would be important. I'd have to see the chart depending on, like, there's other elements to that make it more specific. So yeah, I can't say too much more, but I'm giving at least an overview of, you know, what that means. So hopefully that helps. How much to see the chart? I mean, you can pull your chart for free. Most of my sessions for like a full reading is usually 150. But you know how we roll with the openness of my flow with people, depending on where each person is at. I'll match you and I'll meet you there, as long as it's a beautiful energy exchange. And that's how it should be for all of us who recognize that as long as we can agree upon a fair energy exchanges with everything, then we can thrive as a tribe together, right? But you know, full reading is really in depth. Like, I mean, we're going to so many layers, so you can step into your kingship. We got it. We got it. All right. What else is happening? It's true. I am watching. Waving a Jack. Everyone wave a Jack. Maybe Jack wants to come onto the video from his room. He's been playing music. Everyone wave a Jack. All right. What else is going on? If there's any other questions, it's a lot of energy today. Highly recommend a rewatch. And if you have gotten value of this, you can share some love. Share some love. Share some love. Meaning, press the share button, share it, you know. Reminder, I'm plugging once again, Wednesday, meditation, Tai Chi, movement, and sound, 7:30 Wednesday night. Jack, I was telling people that maybe we'll do a workshop on creative flow before the open mic on Friday. That's what I'll say. Okay, Jack's gonna play a song. Woohoo! All right, we're gonna stop questions for now, and we're gonna do an intermission with songs from Jack. Let's see if I can get him on here. I hope I can get on here. Doesn't look like I have the option for screen sharing today. That's odd. Okay. I'm gonna look for this while we just chill out. See if you could, Jack, see if you can request to be on. Oops. Yeah, that's really odd that I can't. Well, maybe Jack has to come on up over here if he wants. For now, we'll just continue with our questions. If I was an animal, I would be... Lately, I've been feeling like a black panther, like a jaguar. I used to really feel resonant with a tiger, Siberian tiger, but I feel more like a jaguar these days. So, what about you, Dave? Actually, all of us, let's all say what would be our animal. If we felt like an animal, what would be our animal right now? It's a great question, Dave. Hey, Aaron. But yeah, black panther or jaguar has been the current animal. Used to be a tiger, but I feel like I've calmed down a little bit. But I still got it. I still got it. We're waiting for Jack. He's going to arrive in this room shortly to share some great songs. And then we will continue questions. Jack is a coyote. Oh, he wants to sing the song, maybe. Oh, great. Oh, this is a Juicy Live. Okay, I want to see what other animals everyone is. Charlene is a wolf. Veronica could be a koala. Oh, that's cute. Jack has arrived.
I was trying to be subtle.
Oh, nope. I was gonna. Aaron's a tiger or a black bear. All right, everyone does animals. You're a coyote.
Sometimes.
You kind of are like a coyote. What's the other animal?
I'm only about 20% coyote, and then the rest of the time I'm a deer, which is like totally different.
Like the prey of the coyote.
My two animals are in conflict most of the time, but they're working on their relationship.
Jack's a 2-4.
True. The 4 is the coyote.
Yeah.
The 2 is the deer.
Shark is my favorite. Crow is my spirit bird. Okay. It was spirit bird. I'm more of a chipmunk running around hiding my nuts and forgetting where they are.
Comment of the day.
Wow, you're 3 animals.
Shark is a really...
Christelle's a bird raven. What? Alright.
A raven bird. Actually, for the longest time, Corey's reminded me, like, just based on his features and his black hair, like a raven or a crow.
Alright, we're matching Christelle. A raven now.
Yeah, you guys definitely have that crow kinship going on.
Nice.
Oh, like, wow, you've been on for a while, eh?
Oh man, we've been going.
Really going. I've been peeking in here and there.
I know. In and out of your songs.
Playing songs, you finish a song. I don't know what's Corey talking about. Okay.
Alright, well, that's cool. Now we can just, I don't know, sing some animal songs, I guess. Well, whatever you want to sing.
Yeah, whatever we want to sing.
Whatever we want to sing.
You feel like singing? What do you feel?
Let me sing.
Okay.
I'm kind of like, yeah, we'll sing, maybe. We'll see.
See how it goes.
We're going to do a song now, friends. So get comfy. Get in your vibes. Jack's going to bring it on. He has this nice drum, deer drum.
This is my drum, and it's made of deer.
We're rolling. Alright, I'll shut up.
Me too. Just for a second.
Nice. Everyone can share if they want more. If they're feeling more, we can keep going. Jack's down.
That's pretty much. I stopped because I was wondering if you wanted me to keep singing or not.
I'm down, actually, yeah. I am down for some more songs.
Oh, hey, go.
My ears needed this. Nice.
Andrew Thomas Phillips. I actually have no idea who you are, man. But, like, I see your name on my screen often.
Aww. It's a Facebook relationship. Well, if people want more songs, we'll continue, unless there's lingering questions before. freestyling, keep it riding, non-stop. We just smiling. We localizing hearts in our rhymes. Keep it wild in. Non-stop. Just this time, man. Okay, we're gonna do more songs, friends. I'm gonna finish with songs unless there's more questions. I'm feeling songs though. Feeling songs.
Unlocalized and undefined. A story told to open eyes. Sifted through the ocean's tides and potent lies, in frozen time to arrive. With a drum and traditional ties. With an unconventional mind. With the heart that sees the one in all and all in one. With a mouth that won't stop singing until the song is sung. Said, welcome home, now be free.
Dear sock.
That's nice. Thank you, man. great allies with us. They're great allies.
Smoke tobacco allies.
The great tobacco in the Pedro Santo.
Maybe that's the north and south, Elam and Condor.
I know, it's us. Elam too. We have our great song altar that is emerging. I'll show you. Look at these great Dreamcatcher. Little feather. Hawk feather. Tobacco. And Palo Santo. And the card of the Fool was picked, which is a very auspicious card.
The Fool. Oh, the Joker's the Fool?
Yep.
There you have it, folks.
There you have it.
I'm a fool.
We are fools. Communicating that deep in heart connection with all us, our loving brothers and sisters. Thank you for this great evening, friends. Great, says Veronique.
Great. Thanks, Veronique.
Great. Let's say hi to all these great friends.
I noticed you're on point with your waves today.
Oh man, I'm just quick little waves.
It's really engaging when you're in the comments from the other side. You're like, oh, he's waving at me. Maybe I should write something back.
It's like, oh, you popped down here. I see you. It's like those people like never, like you never talk to them or whatever, and then they're on.
It's just etiquette though. Like if you see someone in the flesh, you like say hi most of the time.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're here.
So like, we got to continue that etiquette in the virtual world.
Do that. All right. Well,
I'll let you close if you wanna.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, it was a long one. So if you're here, share the video if you had value. If you're still here, hopefully that's the case. Or you're just bored as shit. Rewatch this. All people who come on now. This is a juicy one. Check out some great songs as usual. Wednesday night in Ottawa, we'll be doing meditation, Tai Chi, some sound stuff, and then we got some good stuff on Friday. You can call me Veronica. Okay, you hate your name in French. Well, I enjoy it. I
think it's nice.
I do think it's nice. But Veronica works too, so alright. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah. Bum bum bum.
Bum bum bum.
Bye everyone. I hope you have a lovely life.
Lovely life, lovely night, lovely morning.